G'day, this is the Breville Barista Express model BES870 that I'm selling. This is the brushed stainless steel version. And as you saw in the photos, it's in pretty good condition. It's got the normal wear and tear that you have on any used machine, mainly around the front where the cup goes in and out. A few light scratches here and there, but nothing too bad actually. So it's very well maintained. Actually, this machine used to belong to one of my customers. They brought it to me every year for 3 years to do a maintenance service. Yeah, it's very well maintained, I can say so. And yeah, the customers stopped drinking coffee, so they wanted to sell it to me to sell on their behalf. Yeah, so the machine is fully cleaned. I've done all the cleaning cycles. I've checked all the features. Everything works fine. I've also opened it up to take a look to see if anything needs changing, if there's any steam or water leaks. There's nothing. The machine works like new, and yeah, it should go for many years before needing another service. Right, in this video I'll be making my morning latte. It begins with a warm-up procedure, so you can use the machine straight away. So when you turn it off, say you come the next morning, turn it on, it'll take about a minute to turn on. That's about 1 minute for the boiler to get up to the hot temperature. When you see the buttons light up, it's ready to go. That means it's ready to make coffee, but it does not mean that everything is hot. You want the handle to be hot, you want your group head to be hot, and if you can, even your cup needs to be warmed up as well. So you can leave your machine like this for 10 minutes. It'll get nice and warm. The boiler will be at the 93 degrees. It'll radiate heat everywhere into the pipes, into the valves, into the group head. But another way to warm up your machine, if you're in a hurry, I do this with my machine every day, my machine here on the left, and I run a blank shot. So that means you get your cup, just dry this cup, you get your cup, you put it underneath the handle is empty of course, you put the handle inside, put the cup underneath, and you press the double button. That's gonna give you a double quantity of hot water. That's going to warm up everything nice and quickly, your cup, your portafilter, and also it acts like a bit of a cleaning cycle. It will flush any coffee grounds or oils that are stuck in the shower screen or in the basket. So it's a bit of a clean as well. I like to do that before and after the shot, after the coffee itself. Do that once, you can do that twice, it's really up to you, but once is at least recommended. Get rid of that. Now this machine comes with a couple of accessories, obviously the portafilter and the tamper, and I think the cleaning disc and some tablets, but also the single and the double basket. I'm using the double basket in this video. In fact, I use the double basket with my machine, and most people should use the double basket. It will taste good, and it will be authentic crema, and also has the advantage of being easy to clean. So I would recommend you use this. If you use the single basket, obviously it will be half the dose, less strong flavor, but also it's, I would say, harder to use because it's shaped in a strange way, whereas the double basket is just flat and it's easy to use, I would say. Right, how to make espresso. Espresso is basically a single shot of coffee weighing about 35 to 40 grams. On this machine, I would recommend 35 to 40 grams, and that's the standard. And it should be at a 2-to-1 ratio. So what does that mean? That means for every gram of coffee you grind into the handle, you want 2 grams coming out into the cup. So because this is an 18-gram basket, the double basket is 18 grams, you want to put 18 grams in this and brew, and then the output should be 36 grams. Well, a few grams here and there, it's fine. I would aim for anything like 34 to 38, 34 to 40. Anything in that range is fine, and even a little bit more is drinkable, I would say. But anyway, that's the basic ratio, 2-to-1. And that 2-to-1 ratio should be brewed in about 30 seconds. A few seconds more, a few seconds less, that's fine. It's not a science experiment. And most of the time, I would say go by taste. Don't follow the numbers and be obsessed with being exactly on the 2-to-1 ratio, but just follow whatever tastes good. To make your life easier, I'm going to set up the settings, the grind size, the grind amount, and the brew. I'm going to set these up so that you can get a approximately the correct settings when you use the machine. So I'm gonna make a coffee on my beans, with my beans, sorry. And then when you get the machine, if you're using similar beans, the settings should be quite similar. So yeah, I'm gonna use my scale here to measure the inputs and outputs. It's on 0 now. I'm gonna dose 18 grams into the basket. Now, you've got at the button here to select single or double. This is the double basket. However, I don't like to grind the double quantity straight away. In fact, I like to grind single, press with a tamper, and then grind again. That's going to reduce the mess, and it's going to make the coffee more consistent because we don't lose coffee from spillage. Otherwise, if I grind the double quantity, what would happen is that we'll get coffee up to here, then it might spill over and make a mess on the counter, on the machine itself. So I'll just do the single, and then we'll see how we go. So if we do the single, we'll put this on the 12 o'clock. This dial here will dictate how long the grinder will run for. I find most of the time it's on 12 o'clock. That's the, from experience, I've made coffee on hundreds of these machines, and most of the time they're around the 12 o'clock mark, where they give me 9 grams. And so if you do that twice, you get 18 grams. I should also mention I'm using the Aldi brand of beans. They're called Lazio. That's 8.5. Not too bad. Let's try the 1 o'clock position. So the key to this method of splitting your grinding into two, the key is once you finish with your first, you should do a light temp. And that's going to make way for the next batch, so you don't spill over any of the coffee that you have. So let me just check that this is now 9 grams. It is 9.1. That's good. So I'm going to lightly press once I finish my first dose, and then let's see what the 1 o'clock position gives us. Hopefully about 9. Okay, a couple of particles spilled over. Let's see. That is 18.5. I would rather err on the side of less versus more. So I'm going to put it back onto the 8.5 grams. So if you get 17 grams, it's better than getting 19 grams, if I'm being honest. So if you dose a bit too little, that's all right. But if you dose a bit too much, you risk having too much coffee in there, and then you won't be able to lock in the portafilter into the machine. And that may either be frustrating, or it can damage the machine long term if you lock it with too much coffee in the handle. Let's get rid of half a gram here. Maybe I'll get rid of this. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, 18.2, that's fine. Okay, once you have the correct amount of coffee in there, 18 grams, 17 grams, both of them are acceptable, I would say. You want to spread the coffee with your hand or with your finger. You don't have to, but that's better for the extraction evenness. Spread it around with your hand. Grab the tamper, and you can put this on the counter to make your life easier. You want to press nice and firm and apply even pressure all around the tamper. So you don't want it to be wonky to one side or the other. You want it to be nice and firm. And then blow away any loose coffee around the edges. And if you have a look, a lot of people ask me, Mohammed, I don't have a scale. I don't want to use a scale every day. What can I do to make my life easier and have the correct amount of coffee? First answer is if you use the scale in the beginning when you set up the machine, you don't have to use it every day. But also, if you don't have a scale, you can grind your coffee and then tamp it, press it down with a tamper, and then have a look. Observe the silver part on the tamper. On this machine, the design is, if this silver part on the tamper disappears, you have the correct amount of coffee. That's a nice little trick that Breville incorporated into their machines. And so if you have the correct amount of coffee, in this case 18 grams, the silver part will disappear. And that's the depth that the coffee should be after you press it down. This is what it looks like from the side. As you can see, the same depth as the silver part. If you press and you still see the silver part, so if you press really hard and the silver part still shows, that tells me that you have too much coffee. You have too much coffee in the handle, and it won't be a good extraction, and it will be difficult to lock in the handle into the machine. On the other hand, if the tamper sinks very deep into the machine, If the tamper sinks very deep into the basket, then that's too little coffee. It should be at this depth. Anyway, with that out of the way, I'm going to lock this in. And now I'm going to brew the shot. I'm going to get rid of this hot water. And you want to add your flavors or sugars or sweeteners before the shot so that the espresso mixes nicely with the flavors as it comes out. I'm going to add some hazelnut syrup. Just a preference. I'm going to reset my scale again, and now I'm going to make coffee. The one thing I will do is I'm going to adjust your buttons. So actually the buttons here, the single and the double, they can be changed to whatever length you prefer. I'm going to change them to what I think is the correct recipe for espresso, and that's about 40 grams. You can always change them to whatever length you want, 20 mils, 40, 60, 150, up to 200 actually, you can change the length of the buttons. And they're volumetric, they're based on water volume and not by time. Okay, so if you remember, we put 18 grams in, we're going to be aiming for 36 grams out, and hopefully we want that to happen in 30 seconds. It may not happen in 30 seconds, and if it happens, if the shot that we want, the 36 grams, if it takes 10 or 15 seconds, obviously that's too quick. But if it takes 15 seconds, then that tells me my grind size is too large. If it takes 60 seconds or 50 seconds, that's too long, and that tells me my grind size is too fine. So it should be about 30 seconds, and how do we control that speed? By the grind size. So think of the grind size as if it's like the speed of the brewing. Larger grind size equals larger speed, smaller grind size equals smaller speed. But we want to keep two things fixed. So that's the grind amount should be 18 grams always. The brew amount should be about 35 to 40 grams always. So if we fix those two and we only change one thing at a time, and that's the grind size, the resultant effect is the brew speed or the brew timing. Okay, a lot of talking, but hopefully once I set this up for you, you don't have to think too much about these things if you don't have to, or if you don't want to think about them, that's fine. It's basically just to make good coffee. How do you change the button length? You press program, then you press the button that you want to program, and then you stop it, and then it'll save that amount. I'm going to press the double because we're doing a double shot. I'm also going to time it on my scale. Keep an eye on the flow and the pressure gauge. We're getting nice, smooth flow. Maybe I would say on the slower side of things, but it could very well be a good shot. The pressure is nice and strong at the 1 o'clock mark. I'll let it go for another 5 seconds or so. That's 35 seconds. And I think that's about 40 grams-ish of coffee. That took 35 seconds. Not too long, actually. So we wanted 30, but 35 is still fine. Let's give it a go. We have 42 grams. That's pretty good. I'm going to leave it there. What we could do better next time, maybe we could increase the grind size to 4. So 3 was actually a touch too fine. We'll increase it to 4 if I'm going to make another coffee, if I'm being a perfectionist. And 4 will, no, grind size number 4 will speed up the brewing. It'll maybe finish in 30 seconds, not 35. And that's how you can control the speed, by the grind size. Now the button will be giving you about 40 grams almost every time. 40 grams every time, hopefully. Give or take a few grams here and there. It's reasonable to be different from shot to shot. But yeah, the single will give us about 8.5 grams. If you do that twice, it'll give you 17 grams. If you press the double button, it'll give you about 40 grams. And then you'll get good coffee. Simple as that. I'm not going to do the shot again because you'll probably be using different beans, either different brand or different age of beans. And beans are actually very sensitive, or the machine is very sensitive to the beans. So if you use different brands or different roasts, you'll get different results. But at least now it's close enough so you can try the machine from day one and get relatively good results. And obviously when you get it, you'll have to tinker a little bit So if you notice that your shots are running too quickly, you may have to grind finer. If you notice that your shots are running too slowly, you may have to grind larger. But yeah, basically use these settings and hopefully you should be good to go. A lot of talking, but anyway, that's the espresso side done. If I want to convert this into a long black Americano coffee, I'm going to add, or I would add some hot water. And we've got a hot water tap here, very conveniently placed. Put your cup on top. That's going to give you, if you let it go forever, it'll actually stop at the 200 ml mark. And that's, I think, a standard long black recipe. But obviously you can stop it at any time if you like a short black or a medium black. If you want to convert this into a cappuccino or a latte, you get a milk jug, steam some milk. And that's what I'm going to do. Your machine sadly doesn't come with a milk jug. That's part of why it's cheaper than my other machines. But yeah, it's got at least the basics to make black coffee. And if you want to steam some milk, you can just grab a milk jug for 10 bucks from like any retailer really. Or even eBay, you can buy one for 10 bucks on eBay. Or in a pinch, you can actually steam milk in like any ceramic or glass mug. It doesn't have to be this metal jug, but the metal jug is optimal for like pouring the milk into a nice design or something. Okay. Before I make the milk, I will clean the machine. So I'm gonna grab my portafilter, knock it into a bin, and then give it a good rinse. So just like before, we pressed the double to warm up the machine. Now we'll press the double or the single, doesn't matter. We'll press it to flush and clean the grip head, clean the shower screen and the basket. Just rotate it left and right to get all angles. That should be enough. It doesn't have to be a long flush. If you want to be extra nice to your machine, just keep it nice and dry so you don't stain it or something. And also grab a towel or a tissue and give it a scrub every now and then to get rid of the loose coffee. As you see, we did flush now, but we have a little bit of loose coffee left. That's just going to keep things nice and clean for you and prevent any long-term build-ups and nasty build-ups. Let it dry like this. I prefer to put the portafilter here and let it dry that way. Some people lock it in, and that's fine as well, so that next morning you just turn on the machine and it warms up the portafilter as well. But I like to keep it here to let it dry. As you see, I do the same thing on my machine. And that's just to prevent any moisture and rust. But it's not a massive issue actually. Steaming, alright. So turn on the dial towards you and it'll engage steam mode. So the machine will take about 10 to 15 seconds to start steaming. It's a single boiler obviously, so it'll have to switch from coffee mode to steam mode. It will give you some hot water at first. You just let that purge into the tray. And then once the pump pulsates, I don't know if you can hear it, but it goes poof, poof, poof. When you hear that, that's when the machine starts producing steam. And if you give it a few more seconds, it'll be even stronger pressure. Stronger and stronger, and that's about full pressure now. And then I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to place my jug at an angle. The machine gives you about 5 seconds to position yourself. If you take longer than 5 seconds, it's going to leave steam mode and go back to coffee mode. So turn it off. Really quickly position the jug at an angle to spin the milk in a vortex and then turn it back on. The two most important things about steaming milk is you want to keep the wand on the edge of the jug so that it spins it in a bit of a tornado. But also the depth of the wand will dictate how much foam you have. So if you keep the wand very close to the surface of the milk, it'll give it more air, more foam, and you can even hear the difference. So have a listen. I'm going to bring it close to the surface of the milk. And then when I raise the jug and dunk the wand deeper into the milk, that noise disappears. And that means I'm no longer injecting air into my milk. I'm no longer aerating it and giving it the foam that some people like. And if you do that, so if you stay close to the surface for a while, for 10 or 15 seconds, you'll get a lot of foam. If you stay close to the surface for only 5 seconds, you'll get a small amount of foam. And it's like a bit of a gradient. If you want a lot of foam, you stay longer at the surface and then dunk it towards the end. And then I'm going to stop it when it's too hot to the touch, and that's about now. When it's too hot to touch for more than a second, that's usually about 65 degrees or so. On my jug it says it's 60 degrees. And then at the end, just give it a quick purge, very important. Just like that, just once to purge steam or some water into that wand, into that dirty part, and that's going to flush any milk from that hole. And then I'm also going to grab a wet towel. It's cooling down. I'm going to grab a wet towel and scrub that tip. Better to clean it now than later, because it'll get harder to clean the longer you leave it. It'll dry up, it'll cool down, it'll form a bit of a crust, which looks ugly. If you're struggling, just use the hot water tap to your advantage. So get this positioned like this, just under the hole, just over the hole. And then that hot water will soften the milk, make it easier to scrub off. And it'll look nice and clean after. Very, very good. Now, I'm not going to let my milk sit out for too long. Here's my shot, here's my milk. I'm going to knock the jug on the counter a couple of times to break any big air bubbles. Then I'm going to swirl it around. Looks like we have a bit of a cappuccino texture. It's very thick foam, and that's fine. If I wanted it to be more of a latte, more of a flat white texture, I would have dunked the wand more so deeper into the machine. Sorry, dunked the wand more deeper into the milk. Otherwise, if you stay very close to the surface of the milk, and as you're spinning it, it will inject more and more foam, or more and more air, giving you more foam. So yeah, that's what dictates the level of froth that you have on your milk. If you're particularly dexterous or skilled, you can actually do some latte art on this model. I'm not very artistic, so I get the occasional heart or whatever shape this is. But yeah, I am not a barista, and I don't pretend to be, but I like to drink coffee. This looks like a delicious latte or a cappuccino thingy. I'm sure you'll enjoy this machine. You can do even better coffees than me. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I will see you soon. Thanks again for watching, and thanks again for your business. Cheers.